Now we look at the next section where we talk about the connection between PPC and productivity, some of the key aspects of CPS, advantages, the necessary conditions and so on. So the objectives for learning: to understand the impact of PPC on productivity, to understand the other key aspects, advantages and so on. Then what are the necessary conditions, roads on the blocks on the road, and finally a summary of the CPS system. This is a very, very interesting and very important slide. Dr. Glenn Ballard published this paper. He was doing a survey of pipe laying work in one of the places in US, and when he plotted the connection between the PPC and the productivity at a large number of locations, he was able to see some kind of a correlation. The plots, if you will see, were all lying around a particular line. And then when he derived the equation of this particular line, you can see the equation here, the productivity equal to all this multiplied by PPC. So that means there is a direct connection between PPC and productivity. So that made him think. So if you want to increase productivity, that means the overall output at the end of the day, you need to focus on the PPC. And we all know what are the factors which affect PPC: good planning, good production system, people working together in a collaborative manner, all these. So if these are in place and if you are able to improve the PPC, then automatically your productivity increases, your production increases, the certainty level at the end of the day, that again increases. So there are multiple cascading advantages by focusing on a PPC to start with. So very famous graph, very important. Please think it over very carefully, and in your own projects, see if there is a linkage between PPC and your productivity. So focus on PPC and your productivity is ensured. Some of the other key aspects to think about: your look ahead plan is actually a top-down process, whereas your collaborative planning, when you involve all the frontline peoples and start with the nitty-gritty, it's a bottom-up process. So they need to properly converge to meet the milestones. When you look at only the look ahead plans, we tend to get lost in the fine print. We don't look at the bigger picture. So maybe once in a month, we need to tally, we need to cross check between the look ahead plan and the overall milestone plan, so that we don't lose out on the overall milestones. Because as a result of feedback loop between what's happening now and what we're going to plan later, sometimes we may tend to slip back from meeting the milestones. But we need to identify that as early as possible and take corrective action. So whenever you have a gap between the actual milestone date and the possible projected milestone date, we need to take some corrective action. For example, you can increase the resources, or you can increase the productivity by doing a number of factors, improve the process, keep on doing work sampling or value stream mapping, train your labor and staff more intensively, and there are a number of ways in which you can ramp up the production and try to still meet the milestone date which you got behind. We may have to redo the construction engineering or even change the methods at that particular time. So if nothing else works, if you are going to be still behind the milestone, you may need to talk to the clients to redo the milestone date. That may have other complications like contractual implications, but if nothing else works, there is no other choice. But we need to be aware right from the beginning that we need to correlate your actual progress with the milestone progress at milestone requirements at regular intervals and take corrective action. So there are many advantages of CPS we have been seeing in the last few sessions. So the main thing I would say is the development of the lean culture. There is a significant mindset change in the people. People talk about something called the happiness quotient at the sites. Traditionally, construction staff, if you look at them at the sites, they're all highly stressed out. They are not able to meet the targets that easily. And there are multiple demands, multiple theatres of operation. There are so many conflicting requirements and all that. But all that get properly streamlined when you are practicing lean. So the people, and then the certainty level improves when you are practicing CPS, as we have seen repeatedly. So with all this, people tend to relax. They get into a happier frame of mind, and the so-called happiness quotient that improves when you start practicing CPS. And the lean culture, that's a very, very important aspect of practicing CPS. So people become more collaborative, they are more open, they are willing to share knowledge, they are willing to have more support, they are willing to give support and willing to take support from others. Then the sharing, the kind of behavior that improves. Then people are able to appreciate and understand the viewpoint of others. In the big room, when you are doing look ahead planning or weekly planning, you have to take some promises and you have to give some promises. That all that give and take, that again improves the camaraderie, the dependingness on the other people, and finally improves the overall collaborative approach. So we are able to also learn how to solve problems in a collective manner. Otherwise, the frontline people, they need to sit in their own, cocoons and try to solve the problems on their own. But with this approach, you have the entire room of friends and colleagues who are willing to help you to achieve your targets and goals. And the frontline people, they develop planning skills which were not there earlier. And planning skills are very important in construction projects because you tend to develop an overall appreciation of the entire work, the sequencing, how to do productivity analysis and so on. So the frontline engineer people, they become better engineers, better construction engineers. Then the predictability and certainty, that's a very fundamental point about CPS that increases considerably. The PPC goes up, the productivity goes up, and a result of all this is there are savings in time and savings in cost. That's been proven again and again. So CPS has got this major advantage. And in the overall sense, the entire project, there is a rise in confidence level that they can meet the targets. So the stress levels come down, people feel happier, and there is the overall a better atmosphere at the site of performing the project. And projects become more easy to execute. The stress levels, like I said, are coming. That's the biggest advantage I have seen by practicing CPS. People tend to become happier and become more confident in whatever they do. But in all this, how do we, what are the necessary conditions? The success of a CPS process doesn't happen just like that. The most important point is actually top management commitment. I have not put that here, but that's a very, very important point. Then the minor things like, the friends have to be available at the right time. The previous work should have been completed. That again happens automatically by the daily huddle process. Then you need to have enough number of staff and labor, the right kind, the right numbers. Then we need to have enough data. All the designs and drawings have to be in place. Then the correct equipment and tools. Normally these things will be, are taken for granted because of our constraint planning. If you remember, we are doing so many weeks, 6 weeks or 8 weeks or even longer than that, of checking on the constraints. What is required in the 6th week? What kind of drawings, equipment, labor? So we are planning all these in upfront, but then still these are prerequisites for achieving whatever we want to do in the current week. Of course, equipment, materials, and a shared understanding between the trades. Because construction is a multidisciplinary work. For any particular work, you require a number of trades to get together and collaborate. You have formwork, rebar, concrete, conduits, embedments, electrical work, mechanical, so many things. They all have to gel together, come together to make construction a success. At the same time, we need to be aware of what can go wrong and try to take steps to prevent these wrong things developing. For the first, one of the most important aspects is a resistance to change. Any change of culture, the people are normally somewhat reluctant in the beginning. I've also found that if you involve the HR people, the human resources development people, from time to time, they are able to conduct some training sessions to improve teamwork, collaborativeness, trust, and all the other factors which go in for developing lean culture. That really helps at in many places. So the frontline supervisors, traditionally they are reluctant to do any planning as such. They are very happy standing in the front line and getting the work done. But here we want them also to do the planning for the weekly planning and the look ahead planning. So that becomes somewhat difficult for them. And the top management, again, the project manager, planning manager, people like that, they are not used to the frontline people coming to the office and sitting down to do planning. Again, that mindset has to change. And the planning department oftentimes, they don't want to let go of their traditional strength planning. So they want to do all the planning themselves and are very reluctant to let the frontline people come and share the planning work. And there is a lot of compartmentalization in projects. Subcontractors and vendors are actually kept far apart. We don't get them to come and understand what exactly we are doing. That has to change. They need to be part of your overall planning in the collaborative planning system. And again, information sharing. The project manager and planning manager, oftentimes, they are the only people who are aware of what kind of buffers are available. That's the, one of the secrets in any project sites. What kind of buffer you have in cost, what kind of buffer you have in time. But that has to change. Everything has to become transparent. When you are on a combined team like that, everybody needs to know what is happening and everybody has to be on board. So there should not be any distrust. And then the leadership, both at the company level and at the project level, they are both very important. And many organizations, they have a lot of inertia to change, to let change happen. So that kind of mindset has to change, and they need to become more open and more conducive to allowing change to happen. And of course, people need to have a proper knowledge of CPS, how exactly to put that in place, how to conduct that and make sure it doesn't get derailed. That's all very important. So summarizing some of the key points of CPS, we need to, of course, you have been told several times, the difference between pull and push, and who are the frontline planners who were earlier frontline supervisors, now they are becoming frontline planners, and what is the best planning process which permits flow to happen instead of focusing at activity level kind of detailing. And then what is the possibility for corrective action when you have a number of feedback loops at the weekly level, daily level, then you are able to improve on your production, and we need to keep on learning from the mistakes. So lean is about continuous improvement. So the continuous improvement will take place only when you study what has gone wrong, remediate all that, and then keep on improving all the time. So the various steps, we have been seeing again and again, starting from the, the various charts, your milestone planning, phase planning, then all the look ahead plans. Concurrently, we do constraint analysis. Then we come down to the weekly pull planning sessions. That's very important. And the daily huddles every day. And we keep digging into the root cause analysis. And there is a feedback mechanism, from day to day or from week to week. And then we need to match with the milestones once in a while. And if you are lagging behind, you need to have measures for catching up. And continuous improvement is the main mantra, the main aspect to be kept in mind. Then input from the first planners for making this improvement all the time, and all this starts from the work structuring. So these are the major aspects of CPS, and hopefully you've all understood all that and will be able to practice this in your sites.